the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox back with another great episode of Nashville 2. Nashville 2 is where we tell your story. If you're from Middle Tennessee, we'd love to hear your story. Maybe you know somebody that we should be talking to, and we'd love to have them on the show. So make sure they get in contact with me. If you want to be promoted and be on the show, drop us a line and we'll get back with you and organize a time. My special guest today from the Print Authority, Connor, is it Pera? Is that how you say that?
That's correct. Yeah. Connor Pera.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
One for me. Thanks for being on the show, Connor. It's going to be fun. We had some audio trouble, people. We had to change to another computer. Couldn't get my sound to work. Don't know what's going on. It's been a couple of weeks since
it's all good. Technology.
Well, good to have you on the show.
Long weekend.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. Yeah, we'll blame it on Memorial Day weekend. I got the red, white, and blue on today, but I normally wear the red, white, and blue. Anyway, like on Monday, I walked in. So we're recording this on Tuesday, just after Memorial Day weekend. So my the joke I told in Sunday school on Sunday, I said I walked into a donut shop to try and buy some red, white, and blue sprinkled donuts, and they didn't have any. They only had chocolate sprinkles. I said that's totally unpatriotic. Yeah, I know. Thanks. I needed an applause button, like a soundboard with an applause button.
Exactly.
So, but I'm not on my computer. Otherwise, we could do that. My favorite one to go to, if you ever do a lot of these meetings, you can go to myinstance.com and you can set up your own soundboard with all these different sounds.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Although you got to test them out because sometimes what they say they are and what they are two different things. So you want to make sure they're appropriate before you use them. But you can set up your own too. So you can have another screen with all your sounds, which is kind of fun. You know, have the FBI knocking, knock, 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 FBI, open up. So Connor, anyway, to get back on the point, are you from Middle Tennessee originally?
No, I'm not. I'm from Northeast Ohio originally, Cleveland area. So
okay, awesome. I had some kids that lived up in around north of Columbus, around Canton and all that sort of area.
Sure, yeah. So I grew up in a town called Hudson. It's between Akron and Cleveland. So Akron's about an hour south of Cleveland. So I'm actually a little closer to Akron. So I grew up in the area. Yeah.
So how'd you get to the Nashville area?
Yeah, I came down here for a job with Mars after I finished business school in 2020. So came down
the candy company.
Yeah, the pet care division is in Cool Springs. So
okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I was working for Mars Pet Care doing brand management, consumer marketing for their pet food brands. So
right.
So so we came down here for that.
We met through networking, BNI, I think it was specifically, but might have been some other networking as well. So what are you doing now? You're working for yourself?
Yeah, so I actually bought a commercial printing business called the Print Authority in 2023, a little over a year ago now. And so I've been running that full time since then. So so left the corporate world to go strike out on my own, as they say. So
And is this the first business you've run? Did you grow up in an Sorry, let me let you answer that question first. Is this the first business for you?
It's the first business of meaningful size. I also started and still run a small vending business that's a side hustle that I started back in 2021. So I'm still running that. That's a super small business though. I do everything for that. I don't have any employees or anything. So so that technically is the first business I've run. But this one is definitely the first that's, of a meaningful size.
Right.
So
I had somebody ask me the other day if I'd ever had any nonprofit experience. I said, I've had lots of businesses that never made me money. So does that qualify as nonprofit?
That's actually really funny.
Yeah, exactly, because most of us that are entrepreneurial will have a lot of businesses over the years that never make any money. It's funny sitting down with employee people that just would rather have somebody else take all the risk and they just help them. And they have this mindset that business owners make all this money. And a lot of the years we're writing the paychecks to everybody else but ourselves, right? I remember,
Totally.
running businesses year after year after year. And then, before COVID, things were good. And then during COVID and after COVID, the business went off the cliff, right? Because there wasn't little mom and pops open that I deal with in my business a lot. And so, I was still having to write the checks, but the money wasn't there in the bank to cover those checks. What do you mean? You're a successful business owner. Yeah. And success means you have good years and you have bad years, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's funny that entrepreneurial mindset doesn't always mean that you're making $1 million. I know plenty of small business owners that are barely making it, and they only make money when they sell, right? Otherwise, they just sustain their lifestyle. And normally, if you're working, so I left school at 15 and opened a convenience store in a little country town in Australia. And from 1983 to 1988, basically we survived, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you were working from 6 a.m. till midnight, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So you didn't really go anywhere to spend any money. All the money was spent on the business and in the business, so it really worked out okay. And that's why, because you ate out of the business, you didn't do any entertainment, you didn't do anything because you're always at work. So I think a lot of the times people don't realize that. Now, did you grow up in an entrepreneurial family?
Not particularly. My dad spent his career in corporate America, and so that was sort of the path that I had witnessed and thought was out there. So I didn't really have a ton of exposure to direct exposure to
Right.
entrepreneurship. Of course, knew people, family, friends, and folks that I grew up around who were entrepreneurs and had entrepreneurs in their family. So, but as far as like the most available example for me, I definitely kind of had this mindset of the way to achieve success is through kind of finding the right industry and function and kind of landing a job in that area and kind of working your way up. So it wasn't until business school that I really started to question that dynamic a little bit more. But it explained a lot of things about my personality now that I'm a full-time entrepreneur. Like
Right.
I jokingly tell people that I'm like I'm too feral to go back to to corporate America. So
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's my wife and I were having that discussion. As your business. I'm a builder. I don't like maintaining. I love building businesses, and then I love transitioning over to the next project. Right, going on to the next business. I had an event organization business where we organized trading card and sporting events, which seemed like totally opposites. But I ran a Magic the Gathering. Oh, my hat keeps disappearing on our video, folks. If you're watching the video, it's not a magical hat. It's just that virtual green background because I'm on my wife's computer because mine didn't have any sound this morning, and we still don't know why. So I ran trading card tournaments all up and down the Midwest. You'd have 1,000 people show up to play Pokemon or Magic the Gathering or Legend of the Five Rings, all these different trading card games. And so we were talking the other day. She goes, "Well, what are you going to do? Do you want to go get a job?" And I just looked at her and I said, "Me with a job." She goes, "Yeah, that'd kill you. It'd either kill you or it would kill who you were working for because I wouldn't be a good employee."
Yeah.
So to your point, that's exactly right. Okay, so you go to business school and you said that taught you a lot about your personality. What did you sort of like? Were you always going to go to business school from high school? Is that what you thought, or did you accidentally fall into that path?
Yeah, so I went to business school as a graduate student. So I went to college after high school and then
Okay.
and then spent 4 years working and then went to business school
I see. So it
for
was
grad
intentional.
school.
It was
Yeah,
intentional.
and it's interesting. Again, that was a path that I had seen in my family through my both my parents actually that went to grad school for business. And I had, heard about it and was kind of in that world and thought, okay, that's a path that's out there. And yeah, I think I did it as a way to sort of open up more options for my career. I was working in financial services and mainly in operations roles for a financial services company in the Philadelphia area. And I didn't want to do that for the rest of my career, but I didn't really know what exactly I wanted to do. And so I, asked for a lot of people's advice and did a lot of networking, and people consistently said, you should think about getting your MBA and go to business school, and might be a good opportunity to sort of reset and change careers. So that's what I did. And then once I applied or made the decision that I was going to apply to business school, then I kind of started thinking through like what types of career paths I might be interested in, and sort of landed on consumer brand marketing as a really cool path that seemed really interesting to me, and still is something that I find really interesting. So yeah, so then once I made that decision, I did have that sort of goal in mind of working for a big CPG company and in the marketing department. So
Right. And so
mhm.
now you're the owner of the the is it the Print Authority or just Print Authority?
It's the Print Authority. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. So the Print Authority, but that company, you didn't start it. It's been around for a while, right?
Yeah, yeah. I bought it from the previous owner who was, looking to get out,
Right.
looking to retire, move on to the next stage of his life. So yeah, so it was one of those opportunities. And yeah, initially I was not coming from a digital marketing background. I was not very enthusiastic about the prospect of running a printing
Print
company.
company. Yeah.
But as I got to know a little bit more about the business and the industry, I got a lot more comfortable with it. And I think I also just saw I saw a really good opportunity to invest more time and energy into the sales and marketing efforts
Right.
at the company, and money to time, energy, and money. But
Right.
and so I felt like I felt like that was a skill set and a capability set that I could bring to the table, and I just kind of felt like, you know there weren't going to be tons of opportunities where I felt like there was a really good fit for my skill set to add value. And so I felt like this was a really good one, with a really good customer set and a really great team. And so I kind of felt like um, it was the time to make the jump. I also was, at the time, my wife and I were expecting our daughter, and so I was very much like thinking about what I wanted to do with the rest of my career. It seems to be a theme in my life.
Right.
And so I definitely felt like, okay, look, I've got a really good opportunity to jump ship here and kind of become a full-time entrepreneur. And it's, there's definitely going to be challenges, but it may be a long time before another good opportunity comes around. So
Right.
I kind of felt like, I want to jump now while I can. Plus, I was on a track in my corporate career that was a really great one. And I was generally really enjoyed the people I worked with and the types of projects I was working on. But you get into the proverbial like golden handcuff situation where I knew that the longer I stayed, if I continued to get promoted and move up, it was going to be harder and harder to
To leave.
leave,
Yeah.
especially with a kid and a
Right.
mortgage and a lot of responsibilities and activities, I was like, it's the math is not going to make sense as much at that point.
Right.
Once I get too far in. So I was like, now's as good a time as any.
I
So
think that after COVID, the great resignation, right? Like a lot of people left the corporate world and moved into owning their own business. Some found it literally a lot harder than they expected, and some it's like they came home and it was the hallelujah moment that they finally found what they were looking for.
yeah, I think for me it's been both,
Bit of
right? I
both,
mean,
yes.
I tell people all the time, particularly folks who are in a corporate path that are, like, oh, that's awesome. Like you must be really loving it. And I am. I
Right.
think I'm confident I've made the right decision and feel like I'm on the right path. But as you know, like it's really hard. Like particularly with the level of responsibility. And as you mentioned, kind of like, having to make payroll like
Right.
every time. And you get paid dead last. So
Right.
it's becomes really stressful. It's a lot of responsibility. And so I tell people all the time, like it's 100 times harder than what I was doing before, but it's also, a lot more rewarding. And
Right.
to your point too, like I feel like I'm building something,
Yeah.
which is it's hard to kind of put a price tag on
Yeah.
the satisfaction from doing that. So,
Right. I tell people all the time, if you're in the corporate world or where, if you're working a job, dig your well before you need it, right? Dig that side hustle, build something. So one of the counseling that we always talk with when potential business owners come and want to get ideas is I say, look, you've got to be able to put away 6 months of your paycheck before you transition from your job to your business, whatever that is. Now, some of us don't have the opportunity. For you, it takes you running the print authority full time. You couldn't sort of like keep one foot in the corporate world and one foot in the business world of your own business. So sometimes you have to jump. But a lot of them are building multi levels, or they have a vending business on the side, or maybe back in the day it was sign writing. They have those dog walking, whatever it is. If you've got a side hustle, build your side hustle until you no longer need your income for your job. But for those of us that have to go out, we have to acquire the business and we have to jump full in. It's a huge moment in our lives when we make that decision, especially with a new kid and just life the way it is. Now, can we talk for a minute about how you found the business that you found? How did you come across the print authority? And you don't have to give specifics, but just generalities for our listeners and viewers on, if they want to look for a business, how did you find yours?
Yeah, I got introduced to the opportunity through a business broker.
So you looked for a business broker to start with, to look for the right business?
Yeah, I tried a couple of things. I was kind of looking, just scrubbing various data sources to kind of like pull a list of businesses in the area that I was
Right.
going to reach out to the owner and kind of hope that they were looking to retire and might
Right.
be interested in talking to me about selling. And I found that to be, I think that's still a really effective way to go about it. But because I was working full time, I just found it to be like very time consuming.
Right.
So for me, the more effective approach was to spend most of my time and energy building relationships with business brokers. So I had started doing some of that as far ahead of the game as I could, and kind of invested most of my time and energy in, meeting with brokers, setting up time to get coffee with them and kind of tell them a little bit about my
What are you
story
looking
and
for?
what I
Yeah.
was looking for. And so I was able to generate deal flow that way. And so the opportunity came about through a broker. So
Were you looking for a locally owned business, or were you open to franchises too at the time?
yeah, I think I was definitely open to franchise opportunities as well, and had some discovery calls with franchise systems. but primarily was focused on locally owned businesses. I think one of the advantages, of course, when you take out debt to buy a business, it becomes a risk. But one of the advantages of an established business is, as you know, like if you built multiple businesses, getting from like 0 to 1
Zero.
is really hard. Like
Right.
that's a lot of work. And can take a really long time if you ever
Right.
get there. So by buying an already established business of somewhat of a significant size, you can kind of skip a lot of steps there.
Right.
So that was sort of what interested me about the idea of doing buying something independent that was locally owned. And I was looking specifically in Middle Tennessee. My wife and I, as I said, had moved down here. And we just really love the area. And so we've been really happy here. So I was like, I don't want to move. I've got sort of somewhat of, time on my side. Like I definitely, want to build relationships and find the right opportunity.
Right.
But at the same time, I was ready and willing to pull the trigger when the opportunity arose. So,
Right.
yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. And I think one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show was you seem really good at building relationships. And I would say that's the key for any business owner, right? Is building relationships. Because as a business owner, we want to add value to our clients. If we are not adding value to our clients, then there should be no expectation that they pay us.
Yeah.
So we have to add value, right? So as a business owner, it's all about adding value, providing a product or service that people feel comfortable paying us for. So let's talk a little bit about your business. What's your ideal client look like?
Yeah, so we do everything in the B2B commercial print space, but we primarily specialize in what we call outsourced printing services for multi-location companies. So think franchises. We essentially are the outsourced print provider for small to medium-sized franchise systems. So we set up online portals, and it's a B2B, portal that the franchisee can log into and order all their print stuff. We have like all their artwork and all their materials and specs loaded and all that kind of stuff. So the process is super easy.
So they know they're going to get the right colors, the right logos, the right fonts, all the things that the corporate system, whether it be franchise or just a multi-location one owner business, having something like that to go to. But what if you're the small business guy? A lot of people that listen to my podcast are smaller businesses, 1 to 5 employees, probably 100, from 0 to $1 million in revenue. Are you open to having them as customers as well?
Oh yeah, totally. So I would say about half of our, probably like 40 to 50% of our business is multi-location on-demand printing and fulfillment. And then the other half of it, 40 to 50 to 60% of it is local B2B work. So we do a ton of that. Local small business.
They want business cards,
medium
great.
and large in some cases. So we do a little bit of everything. Yeah.
Right. And if you can't print on site, you obviously have relationships with other organizations. I don't know if you do banners and that sort of stuff, but if you don't print them locally, whatever you can't print locally, you've got other trade houses that you can go to that you can get that stuff. So you're the one-stop shop. And then with your background in marketing, that must help a lot of your smaller clients as well.
Yeah, no, that's right. So we do about 70% of our volume is in-house, and then about 30% of it is outsourced or brokered. So one of the things I didn't know getting into the printing business, that I'm much more familiar with now is just how prevalent brokering is, and the fact that no printing business does everything. Everyone sort of has their thing that they specialize in. And so, having relationships with other printers is often super helpful as well. So anyway, but yes, having a marketing background, it's an interesting one. A lot of times, we actually don't get a ton of people coming to us with marketing strategy and execution questions. But I would say from where I sit as the owner of the business, I kind of try to focus our time and energy and effort on where we can add the most value, which is
Right.
the professional printing side and the executional side of somebody else's marketing work. I'm always happy to provide perspective and, at the very least, point people in the right direction. But I try to focus my time and energy of our business on executing and deploying the
Okay, so
market.
tell me, what's one of your favorite stories of a client that you've been able to help?
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Put
I
you on
would
the spot.
say, yeah, I would say uh, one of the things that this predates my time, but we work with pretty large franchise system, over 1,000 stores, and we produce a logbook for their store owners. And it's something that has to get produced every quarter and shipped to all the franchisees nationwide, and it's a big coil bound book, and it's for them to effectively operate the day to day, blocking and tackling of running the store. So they came to us a while back. We're really plugged in with a few industry associations, one of which is focused on hospitality training specifically. And so we were at one of those conferences. This was back in the day, and they came to us with this request. They're like, this is sort of like an odd request and an odd job, but our current provider is not, meeting our standards from a deadline and quality and reliability, and really more than anything, like headaches. I would say that's like the biggest sort of value add that I can pitch to people, is like high quality service that will reduce your headaches above all else. But for that client particularly, we set up a custom portal where we're able to store all their information. And because it's a quarterly project that happens, it's pretty much on autopilot in terms of the back end and the processing of all the job details and getting all their information. And so it really just becomes like a logistics question of dialing in the execution of the process. And we've been able to save them tons of money. I would say across the system, probably definitely at this point, hundreds of thousands over the last, 5 to 10 years. But yeah, I would say more than anything, what we do is we take the headaches away from the corporate team, and we streamline things and make it easy for their franchisees and whomever else, as you said, if it's a one owner but multi-location business, just we deal with all the operational complexities and questions and little issues that come up. So
what's been your most favorite, or some things that stand out in your mind about owning this particular business? What's been some of your favorite points?
I would say it's not necessarily anything specific to printing. I think the reason that I got into wanting to run a business is the impact you can have on people, and I would say that's like been the most rewarding thing by far, is being able to lead a team. And we've had a really strong year so far, knock on wood. We're starting to see some some really strong growth.
Now, you've had employees for a long time. You've had some employees that have stuck around for a long time, right? Which always bodes well.
We've had some, and that was one of the things that attracted me to the business right away too, was the amount of people who've been here for over a decade, which to me, like, I was thinking, as a new business owner, this is going to be really helpful if I can keep those folks around to have that
Right.
knowledge.
Yep.
But also, to me, said a lot about the type of company it was, the type of culture that's there, that folks chose to spend, their uh, in some cases entire career here. I've greatly benefited from that, and hopefully been able to add some of what I can hopefully bring to the table to that. But yeah, I would say, I would say this year it's starting to feel like we're really starting to gain some momentum, and I'm kind of starting to see some moments of people on the team with them having like sort of some aha moments about what this
Right.
business is capable of, and those are really powerful experiences as a leader. And so one of the things that I also kind of struggle with in my corporate role was I worked with alongside a lot of other MBAs and folks who are
Mhm.
really talented and ambitious and intelligent, and those are the kind of people that I would be managing at future stages, had I stayed on that path. And typically those are people that are going to be just fine without you as their manager. Like you'll actually probably do them more harm than good by
Right.
by managing them. And not to say that there aren't tons of people like that everywhere in every corner of the world, but I've definitely felt like the energy hopefully that I've been able to bring to the business has hopefully given people some excitement around kind of what we're building here. And again, it needs to translate to results, and we're kind
Right.
of starting to see some of that, some early indicators at least. So knock on wood, but yeah, assuming that continues to be the case, then I think I can get people to believe in kind of what we're capable of, and hopefully start to see that like one of the things that I've learned in my life is like when you go after ambitious goals and kind of like follow the steps and just keep your head down and just keep grinding no matter what, you start to realize that you're capable of things that you didn't think you were capable
Right.
of. So I would love to be able to impart that on the team as we hopefully continue to progress. So
Right. So, what are some of the things that you come across, the challenges that you find with your local small business owners that they don't know about printing? They come to you with it scratched out on a napkin and say, "Here it is, get it done." Well, what is it? I guess I'm looking for some takeaways for people listening to the podcast. Um,
yeah.
what can they learn? What can they learn from you, Connor?
Well, thanks. Well, you're my graphics department and operations team will thank you for that question. Um, because yeah, back in the day, there used to be at most companies, certainly at large companies, there was always a print buyer, like somebody
Right.
who was responsible for coordinating all the print work. And that, as the printing industry as sort of traditional ink on paper as a primary marketing channel has gone down, and people have needed print in other ways. It's just sort of changed what the need is. Those roles have largely been eliminated across corporate America. So with that, a lot of sort of printing specific knowledge or know-how about how to give printers information to quote a job,
Right.
for example, has gone
Well, I got
away.
this 3 KB icon off Google. It's a 3 kilobyte image. Surely you can blow that up and put it on a billboard.
Yeah. So there's, I would say that is in general, I've run into this as a business owner. What you realize is fundamentally what that becomes like a communication challenge, right? So it's like,
Right.
how do we get better at like communicating to the customer like what we need and why, and kind of in turn, that helps build a relationship if we're able to pull information from them that we can then translate into a more effective product or a cheaper product because of the way that we run the job. So yeah, so I would say like the biggest things are file quality. Yeah, like in general, like, you know, we need layered files, PDFs that are of good quality that we can work with, and we can manipulate those any which way.
Right. Because obviously the difference between making a business card and wrapping a vehicle or making a banner stand or something, you're going to need different quality graphics, right? You're going to need,
Totally.
you can't take, oh, here's my business card. Can you just scan this and take the image off this? Because I've lost the image. You know, I like, man, when I was in the advertising game, I had a franchise called The Coffee News, and it was just business card size ads on a restaurant reader. And people would give me the worst graphic files ever to try and get a decent ad made for them. And even though my ads were little, you know, you'd have to have it redrawn, or you'd have to, like, you got to keep on them. You got to find that file. So give me three tips that people should know before they walk into a printer for a small business owner.
Yeah, so I would say one of the big things is finish size, right? That's like one of the first questions that we should be asking, but that people sometimes don't consider, right? Because that's one, finish size.
Know the finished size of your project.
Exactly. The other one is I guess there's a couple different ways to sort of take it, but I would say definitely we also want to know like any special binding or finishing instrument. How do you want it bound? How do you want it to look? Do you want
how do you want it to look? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, do you want like a coil book like this? Right. Or do you want it to be perfect
stitched or glued or whatever? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that is definitely a big thing. And yeah, I would say the other big thing is just like high quality artwork file. PDF is best. So yeah, so if you have PDF, finish size, binding considerations, and how many you need, we can probably get to almost everything, all the information we would need to quote the job. Because from there,
I'm going to throw one more in there. Guys, have a budget. Know what to expect the price is. It's not Vistaprint, people. I mean, you're getting a high quality product. Know what your budget is, at least. And don't be afraid to tell the printer your budget. They're not going to max out your budget. They're going to tell you whether that's a reasonable budget or not. If they can save you some money, they will. They'll show you different options, right? Like you would show people, hey, if you print on this paper, it's going to be this. If you print on this paper, it's going to be this.
Yeah, so that's and a lot of times, you know, I think this is probably true in so many businesses, but you know, everything kind of comes together last minute, right? And so, but the more we can have like those sort of must-haves, like size, quantity, you know, color, black and white, finishes, etc. Like if you come prepared with those, then we can have a really productive discussion about different paper types and what that might do to the cost, or like, you know, considering the way you lay out the file and how we can save you some money there because we can run it more efficiently if you move this page. And so those things, that's where you really can start to see like some pretty meaningful impact to the cost of a job. But we can only get there if it's not like, hey, I've got a bunch of stuff and I need it next week. Like we can get that done for you, and we do that a lot, and we're more than happy to. But as you can imagine, you know, things just happen really quickly, and then you don't end up getting to the discussion about, well, what's the most cost-effective way to accomplish this? And so, you know, the goal becomes just let's deliver for the customer as expected on time, as opposed to like like I said, a really productive discussion.
The funniest story, the funniest one that happened to me, I was in Wichita, Kansas, where I lived for 30 years. And I was talking to a print shop owner, and a customer comes in and they say, and so I step back and I'm just listening, and they're like, yeah, well, I was going to print it on Vistaprint, but I really need it by Wednesday. And I think this was Friday. And they said, and I couldn't get it on time, but I had a 50% off coupon. And so these business cards were only going to cost me X. And so can you do it for that and give them to me? I'm like, I start laughing and I can't help myself. And he looks at me. I'm sorry. Dude, there's no way you can expect a 50% discount and good quality and have it by Wednesday and have it here locally. You're going to have to pay for the option.
Yeah.
And he's like, we'll just butt out, dude. No worries.
I will say, I will say that one of the big challenges about the printing business is that there's so many, and in some cases, like the value, like large providers they do produce certainly satisfactory and in some cases good quality. So there's so many
what you give them though, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And there's so many people have so many options, I guess. And a lot of times so their price expectations are extremely low, and their delivery and quality and execution expectations are extremely high. So I think that's true to varying degrees in any
every
industry.
business, yeah.
But certainly in the printing industry, we can definitely
I would argue that the biggest thing I found with 40 odd years in business, right? I have found that personal relationships are key, whether that's at a distance or local, because you can work with people at a distance too, right? So, but I find that relationship of somebody that I can go to that has all my information, has been working with me for a while, knows sort of like my persona and what I'm projecting through my business, having that local or at least available relationship is key. Whether you're 10 states away or 2 countries away doesn't really matter if you've taken the time to build that relationship.
Yeah. And so one of the things that we love, like for our top customers, their average tenure with us is over a decade.
Wow.
And so those relationships, and the great thing about what you're saying too is like they compound over time too, right? So like as we get more and more experience working with a client and they get more experience working with us, we're able to work that much better together, because it's like any relationship, like you said, the better you get to know someone and their style and being able to communicate with them effectively, it's almost like you can take shortcuts with your communication.
Right. It's like a good marriage, right?
Exactly.
That's really what works. So like I'll be sitting here talking to somebody, and out of nowhere, a hand will come in and it will have a sonic drink for me. That's my type of sonic drink. That's exactly what I wanted, that I didn't ask for. But she'd ran out to get something and she brought me back a drink, right? Plug for Sonic there. We're big Sonic app users. And, that's the sort of thing that, oh, dude, you told me you were looking for this type of foil paper. I've got a guy in Wichita that I said, hey, if you can ever find a good, reasonable supply of this type of paper, and I showed him a book that I was reading, making a dad joke books, right? And so a couple of years ago, and we were trying to look for a certain thing. And I said, if you ever get a buy on this, I can't afford to pay retail for it, but this is sort of my budget and whatever size, and he's like, I was in Wichita last week, and he's like, dude, I'm still looking. I haven't found anything yet, but I'm still looking. Want you to know. And this was like a couple of years ago that I asked him this, right? He brought it up. I didn't. It just ran into him at a BNI group. So I think that relationship is important, that people remember what you do, and the closer you work together, the better off it is. So folks, if you need a printer, get out there and get started with Connor at the Print Authority. And if they wanted to find you, Connor, where would they find you? How would they contact you?
So you can find us on theprintauthority.com. And you can email me directly, Connor, CONNOR, at theprintauthority.com. Or you can just call our office. Our number's on Google, but it's 615-468-2679.
So folks, Google the Print Authority. And you're located where? Cool Springs, is it?
We're in Brentwood, but we're across from the Cool Springs Mall. So we're practically Brentwood in Franklin, but technically our address is Brentwood. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Aren't you you're across the street from the Churchill Mortgage Building too, right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Right down there.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Okay. So we've covered the job, we've covered work. You can take the single business owner, you can take the multiple location, you can take the huge franchise, you can do all that. 70% you do in-house, the other 30% you can source for them. So you're their one-stop shop for everything printing. Now, when you're not working, other than with a young kiddo now, what do you like to do for fun? And this is where we talk about our hidden gems. Do you have certain places you like to hang out for entertainment or food or church or hiking, or give us the first of your hidden gems.
Yeah, so I would say I love to play golf, so I try to play as much golf as I can.
Do you have a favorite course?
Well, we actually joined Tennessee Grasslands up in Gallatin.
Okay.
So I've loved being a member at a golf club. That was like a childhood dream of mine.
Right. Yep.
So I've been able to check that one off the box. So I play there a lot. When I get a chance to play. And then so one of my hidden gems, I'm also a runner, so I love to run. And I would say hidden gem about the city of Nashville is our greenway system is awesome. So I work down here in the Cool Springs area, but we live in East Nashville.
Okay.
We lived in an apartment in Germantown before that. But in both locations, both parts I've lived, we've had pretty close access to a greenway, a trail, and they're like phenomenal. I think. I mean, I think
So
it's
for
one of the
those of
better.
us not familiar with what a greenway is, how do we find out about them? Where would we search for that?
Yeah, so I mean, you can just Google Nashville Greenway,
Okay.
and you'll see kind of like all these different trails that a lot of them are connected to one another too. But as a runner, it's really nice because you don't have to run on the road as much. I mean, I have to run on the road like just to get to the trail. But then you're kind of, on trails in the parks in Nashville, and there's a lot of like space. So I run from my house to get to Shelby Bottoms I guess it's a little over 2 miles, but then once I'm in Shelby Bottoms, like I've got like miles and miles of space. And just depending on the route that I take. And then, yeah, before that I was, like I said, we lived in Germantown, and I used to run to the greenway that goes around like Metro Center and stuff like that, the Titans practice facility.
Gotcha.
So
the greenway system, is great around the Nashville metro area. I know Murfreesboro, some people have talked about the big one through Murfreesboro too that a lot of people aren't aware of. So guys, check that out. Google Nashville Greenways. Okay, that's one. What's number two?
Okay, so number two, down here in Cool Springs, if you like Mexican food, one of my favorite spots that's sort of off the beaten path is Garcia's, which is right here in there's like a shopping center with a Target, and very nondescript location. And they're actually not open on Mondays. But phenomenal Mexican food if you like it, and usually not that crowded either. So
right.
like,
yeah, Garcia's, unless you're hitting it on a Sunday after church, it's packed. But Garcia's, and they've got two locations that I frequent. The one you're talking about, the Target parking lot with the what's the Japanese restaurant there on the end? The good ramen there, by the way. Ichi Ben or Bean. I can never pronounce it.
Yeah, it sounds familiar. Yeah.
So it's in the same complex as what you're talking about. That's one Garcia's. The Garcia's that I like to go to is the one over by Hobby Lobby off Murfreesboro Road, in Franklin. So they're probably only 10 minutes apart from each other, but they're both good. But we have a favorite server at this one close to where we live. So Garcia's, yes, I'm right with you. That's a top pick, dude. Well done. You got a third one for me?
I don't know. What's a third? What do people typically? Is it like a restaurant or?
I had one lady talk about a church because it had a playground that she didn't know about, and they started going to the playground because of a play date. Now they're going to the church, and they love the whole setup. I've had other people talk about the AMC movie theaters, which are amazing. That's one of my favorites right there where you're at virtually. Food, entertainment, something to do.
Yeah, I would say, okay, so in our neighborhood, we live in South Inglewood and in East. We love just walking around Inglewood, and also we like to go to Eastland Park
Okay.
out over there. There's like a little playground, swings that our daughter loves.
How old's your daughter now?
She's 18 months.
18
So
months. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so and now she's getting to the age too where she can enjoy
Do
more of
stuff.
the playground stuff.
Yep.
And then we have 2 miniature dachshunds too. So having access to walkable parts of town and
Right.
park is helpful. So
Cool. Are
yeah.
you a coffee drinker or not?
Yes, but I'm like, actually my favorite latte, this is like not a hidden gem. But I love the local honey latte from Bongo Java in East.
Okay.
So there's several Bongos, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not familiar. So that was so coffee shops that we do a lot of one-on-ones, of course, and networking at coffee shops. And so I'm always looking for good coffee shops. So Bongo Java is not one that I've heard about. So it's a hidden gem to me. That's
okay. There you go.
okay. So tell me a little bit about why you like this latte.
Well, I just, I have a sweet tooth, and it's not, I don't think my wife says it's overly sweet, but I don't think it's overly sweet, but you can always get it like half sweet.
Right.
But it's like a honey and cinnamon. It's pretty simple. And it's just like good coffee. I am a huge coffee drinker, but like not at all like a snob about where
Right.
I get it from. For me, it's all about the caffeine. So it's like
Right.
whatever.
So a drip coffee from Denny's, or I don't know, is Denny's still even a thing? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll drink like gas station coffee, and
Right.
yeah, I don't care.
Well,
Yeah.
I tell you what, I've been going to White Bison.
White Bison, yeah, it's not
And
bad.
that is not gas station coffee. That is
it's good.
It is good stuff. They're using so my kids and I, we have a coffee machine repair company, and these Frankie auto machines take a lot of the guesswork out of it, and you get a consistent cup of coffee all the time out of these things. Not like the old vending machines at the hospitals back in the day, right? And so I've met the guys that run the coffee division or the White Bison shops inside the Twice Daily, and they said the last thing we want to hear is it's good for gas station coffee. No, it's not even gas station. It could be standalone, compete with Starbucks. That's how good it is.
Yeah, so, it is good. The other one, well, this is not a Nashville thing, but it's gas station coffee. But if anyone in the audience or you is familiar with Wawa in the Philadelphia market,
no,
that is really good coffee.
There you go. Buc-ee's, people are impressed with Buc-ee's, and people are impressed with Quick Trips. So I grew up, well, I say grew up. I came to the States when I was 22, and I think it's out of Tulsa is a company called Quick Trip. And now we're starting to see Quick Trips come in around the Nashville, Tennessee area. There's one up on the north side of town right now. And Quick Trip is one of those gas stations along with Buc-ee's that can go in there, and basically everything they've got is quality, it's decent. So Wawa's in the Philadelphia area, huh?
Yeah, and in New Jersey, East Coast, Delaware. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There you go, folks. There you go. So you didn't know on Nashville too, you're going to find out about Wawa's coffee or Wawa's gas station.
Well, they do everything. Yeah, it's like a convenience store and coffee and gas.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yep. Awesome. Well, Connor, any last thoughts you want to share with us? It's been great having you on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I look forward to seeing you around Williamson County and Davidson County.
Yeah, you bet. I'll let you know when this goes live.
Sounds good.
Thanks for listening, and as always, make sure to subscribe, like, share, tell everybody about us. We need your help. We got to grow, right? We got to grow. So you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and then on all the podcast platforms. Although Google Podcasts just went away. I'm so sad. They rolled it into YouTube. So we'll have to figure that one out. But I moved over to Pocket Casts. That's what I listen to my stuff on. Thanks a lot, folks. Till next time, we'll see you.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.